the humans issued Emperor Quasar one last warning. Withdraw your invading fleet from Earth, retreat to your own territory, and never return, or we will hunt down and wipe out your entire pathetic Barzan empire across the galaxy. The Barzans had conquered countless worlds, dominating the Milky Way with advanced technology and brutal subjugation. But when they set their sights on an unassuming blue planet called Earth, they soon learned that the human race was no primitive pushover. On Earth, former Special Forces operative Jeremy Morris stared at his monitors in shock as he detected the massive Barzan invasion armada approaching the solar system. He had spent years secretly developing advanced deep space monitoring capabilities, and now his worst fears were confirmed. Morris urgently contacted world leaders to warn them, but most dismissed his dire alerts as a hoax or crackpot theory. They had no idea of the imminent catastrophe that awaited Earth. With no time to waste, Morris assembled an elite team of military veterans, top scientists, and expert hackers. Earth's very survival depended on them devising a way to repel the technologically superior Barzan forces before it was too late. As Morris's team analyzed intercepted Barzan communications and scans of their ships, they discovered a critical vulnerability. The aliens' weapons, shields, and propulsion systems all relied on a rare mineral called trionium. By sheer luck, trionium was abundant on Earth but scarce across the rest of the galaxy. This gave the humans a fighting chance, but the stakes couldn't be higher. If Morris's desperate plan failed, the Barzans would conquer Earth, enslaving humanity and stripping the planet of resources. Millions or billions could die in the aftermath. The future of the human race itself hung in the balance. Everything depended on their ability to outwit and outfight a ruthless galactic empire. As the Barzan fleet retreated, Jeremy Morris stepped out onto the tarmac to a roar of cheering crowds. Throngs of grateful citizens mobbed him, chanting his name. "Morris! Morris!" Television cameras zoomed in on his face. The president herself strode forward to shake his hand. "On behalf of all humanity, thank you," she said, her words broadcast globally. "Your brilliance and bravery have saved us all. We are forever in your debt." Morris nodded humbly as she pinned a medal to his chest. He had never sought fame or accolades. He had only done what needed to be done to protect Earth. But he knew his work was just beginning. In the following weeks, Morris found himself catapulted to a level of worldwide renown he had never imagined. His face graced the covers of magazines, his name in every headline. World leaders sought his counsel at emergency summits as they grappled with the aftershocks of the Barzan invasion and the unsettling realization that humanity was not alone in the universe. After rounds of intensive discussions, the nations of Earth agreed to unite their efforts and resources against the alien threat. The Earth Defense Alliance was born, with Jeremy Morris appointed as its chief strategic advisor. The EDA's mandate was clear: to defend humanity's home and interests by any means necessary, and Morris wasted no time getting to work. He assembled an elite team of Earth's most brilliant scientific minds and tasked them with unlocking the secrets of captured Barzan technology, especially the enigmatic mineral trionium that powered their ships and weapons. Morris understood that reverse engineering and improving upon the Barzan's technical advantages would be critical to evening the playing field. Day and night, in state-of-the-art labs, the scientists worked feverishly to analyze and replicate the alien tech. Gradually, breakthroughs emerged. New alloys were forged, stronger and more resilient. Powerful laser cannons and railguns took shape. Shielding and propulsion systems far beyond anything conceived on Earth hummed to life. Orbital shipyards buzzed with activity as a formidable fleet began to take shape, jam-packed with humanity's most cutting-edge weaponry. A network of early warning satellites and defense platforms was seeded across near-Earth space. For the first time, Earth had the eyes and the claws to defend itself beyond the confines of its atmosphere. As Earth's military technological might grew, Morris pressed for an ambitious agenda of deep space reconnaissance and exploration, determined to learn all he could about both the Barzans and any other potential players on the galactic stage. Long-range probes and manned expeditions ventured forth to dance at the edges of Barzan's space, gathering priceless intelligence. The picture that emerged was troubling. The Barzans, it was now clear, were an empire in the truest sense. Their talons sunk deep into dozens of subordinated worlds. Their history a long, bloody trail of conquest and subjugation stretching back centuries. Their defeat at Earth's hands had been a shocking blow to the Barzans' aura of invincibility. Morris pored over field reports and intercepted communications, a dawning realization chilling his blood. Humanity had hurt the Barzan Empire, bruised its pride. Reprisals would come. It was not a question of if, but when. Light years away, in the cavernous throne room of his palace on the Barzan homeworld, Emperor Quasar brooded. The shame of his defeat burned like acid in his veins. Whispers of dissent swirled through the empire, insidious tendrils seeking to strangle his authority. Seething, Quasar stalked to his inner sanctum. He would not allow some upstart primitives from an insignificant backwater to challenge Barzan mastery of the stars. He would not permit it. His empire would rise again, stronger than ever, a boot stamping on the face of the galaxy forever, and he would grind the human resistance into dust. In secret laboratories deep beneath the palace, Barzan scientists redoubled their experiments with trionium, pushing its lethality to obscene new frontiers at Quasar's command. A cold smile split the Emperor's features as he beheld the perverted fruits of their labors. This would be his vengeance made manifest. On Earth, a chill coursed through Morris as he reviewed the latest intelligence assessments. Reports painted an undeniable picture, a frenzy of activity in Barzan space, massive fleet movements, the hellish light of weapons tests flickering in the void. A storm was coming. Humanity now grappled with the grim calculus of its survival. Did they hunker down, weather the coming onslaught, and pray their defenses held? Or did they seize Themament and nip this menace in the bud? Morris saw no choice. Quasar had to be stopped now, before his trionium weapon of mass destruction could doom them all. But not everyone agreed. In raucous EDA assemblies, factions clashed. Impassioned voices called for caution, for diplomacy, for attempts to sue for peace. How could they be sure the Barzans would strike first? Did they really want to become the interstellar aggressors they feared? Morris stood firm against the tide. If humanity flinched from the hard decisions now, they might not get another chance. He opened his mouth to argue his case yet again, and klaxons blared as all hell broke loose. Barzan warships shimmered into existence in 100 angry slices of light across the globe, shrugging off their cloaking shields. They had slipped the EDA network, poised daggers at humanity's throat. Precision strikes gouged smoking craters where defense installations had stood just moments before. Dropships disgorged Barzan troops into the heart of Earth's great cities, insectoid battle armor gleaming beneath unfamiliar stars. Humanity reeled, staggered by the sheer speed and ferocity of the Barzan assault. But they quickly rallied, armed citizens and EDA forces rushing to stem the alien tide in brutal street-to-street fighting. Smoke choked the skies as tracers lit up the night in jagged strobes. Artillery and beam weapons dueled across urban canyons. Jet fighters screeched through canyons of glass and steel, alien craft buzzing angrily in their wake. Los Angeles, Tokyo, Johannesburg, São Paulo, all became blood-slick battlefields. At EDA headquarters, Morris barked orders and deployed reinforcements, struggling to stanch the Barzan incursion and regain the initiative. As he coordinated a counterattack, a console blinked. An incoming transmission, source unknown, tagged highest urgency. Curious, Morris hit accept. The face that flickered to life on the screen was Barzan, but haggard, furtive. Morris tensed, hand dropping to his sidearm. Was this a trap? But the words that spilled from the alien's translator froze his blood. "You don't know me," the Barzan said, "but I know you. You're the human who wounded the Empire. Good. You must listen. Your people, your world, are in more danger than you know. Quasar has a new weapon, something terrible. He calls it the Godmaker." The Barzan proceeded to lay out Quasar's twisted plans in chilling detail, the horrors he sought to unleash. He disclosed the location of the Emperor's secret research facility, where the devastating new trionium device was nearing completion. But Morris had to hurry. When the weapon was ready, no force in the galaxy could save humanity. "Why should I believe you?" Morris growled, suspicion warring with dread in his gut. The Barzan smiled sadly. "Quasar is a cancer. If he is not cut out, he will devour us all. I pray you succeed for both our sakes." The screen went dark. Morris stood rooted, mind racing. Could he trust this mysterious informant? The fate of humanity hung in the balance. To act on this intelligence could end the Barzan threat for good. But if it was a ruse, a trap, he could doom Earth's best and brightest. The weight of the decision settled on his shoulders like a mountain. Morris looked out over the command center, technicians and officers awaiting his word with tense anticipation. He drew a breath, steeling himself. There was only one choice. Earth would take the fight to the enemy. Morris would lead a desperate assault into the black heart of the Barzan Empire. It was time to cut off the serpent's head. He began to snap out orders, a plan taking shape. The battle for the future had only just begun. Morris wasted no time assembling his elite team. Within hours, they were aboard a stealth ship, its hull coated in experimental trionium-derived camouflage. As they slipped past Barzan patrols undetected, Morris briefed his operatives on the high-stakes mission ahead. "We're going in blind, people. Trust your training and watch each other's backs." They infiltrated the secret facility with practiced efficiency, disabling security systems and neutralizing guards without raising alarms. Deep inside the complex, they discovered a cavernous chamber housing a monstrosity of alien engineering. "My God," breathed Sarah Chen, Morris's second-in-command. "It's bigger than I imagined." The doomsday device loomed before them, a massive orb crackling with terrifying energy. Screens displayed simulations of entire star systems vanishing in cataclysmic bursts. "Quasar's gone mad," Morris muttered. "This goes beyond Earth. He wants to hold the entire galaxy hostage." As the team worked to sabotage the weapon, alarms blared. Barzan troops poured in, plasma bolts sizzling through the air. Morris and his operatives fought back fiercely, but found themselves quickly overwhelmed. Then the sea of enemies parted, and Emperor Quasar himself strode forward, resplendent in gleaming battle armor. "I've been expecting you, Jeremy Morris," the alien ruler intoned. "Your reputation precedes you." Quasar's guards surrounded Morris's team. With a gesture, the Emperor dismissed his troops, leaving just the two of them face to face. "I've studied you extensively," Quasar continued. "Your tactics, your unwavering spirit, you're truly impressive for a human." Morris tensed, ready for action. "Cut the flattery, Quasar. We're here to stop you." "Stop me?" "No, Jeremy. I'm offering you a choice. Join me. Together, we could bring order to this chaotic galaxy, or continue this foolish resistance and watch your world burn." Morris didn't hesitate. "I'll pass. Humanity's shown we can stand up to bullies like you. We'll do it again if we have to." Quasar's eyes narrowed. "So be it." The Emperor lashed out with a crackling energy whip. Morris barely dodged, feeling the heat sear past his face. They clashed in furious combat, Morris's earth-honed skills against Quasar's alien might. As they fought, Morris's team worked frantically to disable the doomsday device. Sparks flew as they ripped out critical components. Quasar snarled in rage. He raised his hand, channeling a massive surge of trionium energy. "Die, human!" Morris activated his shield generator at the last second. The blast ricocheted wildly, striking the doomsday device. Alarms shrieked as chain reactions tore through the weapon's systems. "Time to go!" Morris shouted to his team. They sprinted for the exit as the facility began to implode around them. They made it to their ship with seconds to spare, blasting off as the secret base vanished in a colossal fireball. Quasar was nowhere to be seen. The trip back to Earth was tense but triumphant. They dealt the Barzan Empire a crippling blow. But as they neared home, urgent messages flooded in from EDA headquarters. "Sir," said Chen, her face grim, "you need to see this." She pulled up intercepted alien communications. A new threat loomed on the horizon. The Zephyrians were coming. Morris studied the data, his mind already racing with plans and contingencies. One battle was over, but an even greater challenge lay ahead. Humanity's place in the galaxy hung in the balance. He turned to his weary but determined team. "Looks like our work isn't done yet, people. Let's get to it." Morris and his team barely had time to catch their breath before alarms blared through EDA headquarters. Technicians scrambled, frantically tracking a massive energy signature entering the solar system. "Sir, you need to see this," Chen called out, her voice tight with tension. Morris strode to the main display, his eyes widening as he took in the swarm of red dots representing the Zephyrian Armada. Their ships seemed to blink in and out of existence, advanced cloaking technology making them near impossible to track. "How the hell did they get so close without us noticing?" Morris growled. "Their tech is like nothing we've seen before," Chen replied. "Our sensors can barely keep up." Morris's mind raced. Earth's defenses, still reeling from the Barzan assault, were woefully unprepared for this new threat. He barked orders, mobilizing every available ship and weapon. As the Zephyrian fleet bore down on Earth, Morris made a bold decision. He opened channels to the various alien races who'd suffered under Barzan and Zephyrian oppression, calling for aid. It was a bold strategy, but their only hope. To his relief, ships from a dozen different species answered the call. A ragtag fleet of Earth and alien vessels assembled, preparing to meet the Zephyrian onslaught head-on. The battle erupted in a fury of energy weapons and explosions. Earth ships darted between lumbering Zephyrian cruisers, their pilots' skill making up for their technological disadvantage. Alien allies provided crucial support, their varied weapons and tactics keeping the Zephyrians off balance. Morris led from the front, his flagship weaving through the chaos. As he coordinated the defense, a priority transmission came through. The blood drained from his face as he watched footage of a Zephyrian superweapon obliterating an entire moon. "They'll use that on Earth if we don't stop them," he realized aloud. Without hesitation, Morris assembled an elite strike team. They'd board the Zephyrian flagship and neutralize the superweapon, no matter the consequences. Their stealth shuttle slipped past the Zephyrian defenses, latching onto the massive vessel's hull. Morris led the charge, his team fighting tooth and nail through corridors filled with strange alien technology. They suffered losses, good men and women falling to Zephyrian weapons, but inch by bloody inch they advanced. Finally, they reached the bridge. Morris found himself face to face with the Zephyrian Emperor, a towering figure radiating cold malevolence. "Your primitive species dares to challenge us?" the Emperor's translator crackled. Morris stood his ground. "We've beaten worse odds before. Stand down or we'll add you to the list." The Emperor laughed, a chilling sound. "I'll enjoy crushing you myself, human." What followed was a brutal duel. Morris's combat training and trionium-enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limits. The Emperor's strength was overwhelming, each blow threatening to end the fight. But Morris had Earth to fight for. He pressed on, ignoring his injuries, looking for an opening. When it came, he struck with everything he had. The Emperor stumbled, then fell. Morris stood over him, victorious but exhausted. "It's over," Morris panted. "Call off your fleet. Deactivate the superweapon." The Emperor grudgingly complied, ordering a retreat. But as Morris's team moved to secure the bridge, chaos erupted once more. A high-ranking Zephyrian, unwilling to accept defeat, made a mad dash for the superweapon controls. Morris and his team raced to stop him, fighting through a renewed Zephyrian assault. Time seemed to slow as Morris dove for the control panel, wrestling with the rogue commander. With a final, desperate lunge, he managed to slam his fist down on the deactivation sequence. The superweapon powered down, and the remaining Zephyrian ships began to retreat. Earth had won, but at a terrible cost. As the dust settled, Morris looked out at the ravaged fleet. The threat was over for now, but he knew this was just the beginning. There were more enemies out there, more advanced civilizations that might see humanity as a threat. He turned to his team, tenacity etched on his face. "We've got work to do," he said. "It's time to build some new alliances." Morris stood at the viewport of the EDA's new flagship, the Defiant, watching the stars streak by as they traveled at faster-than-light speeds. The ship's hull hummed with the power of its advanced engines, a testament to humanity's rapid technological progress since the Zephyrian invasion. "Sir, we're approaching the Caldorian system," his XO, Lieutenant Commander Reyes, reported. Morris nodded, his face set in concentration. "Bring us out of FTL. Let's not spook our potential allies." The Defiant dropped back into normal space, revealing a stunning vista of twin suns orbiting each other in a cosmic dance. Morris straightened his uniform and headed for the shuttle bay. This diplomatic mission was crucial to Earth's future security. As their shuttle descended through Caldoria's atmosphere, Morris reviewed the briefing materials one last time. The Caldorians had suffered greatly under Zephyrian rule, their once thriving civilization reduced to rubble. Now, they eyed the humans with a mixture of hope and suspicion. The landing pad was crowded with curious onlookers, their iridescent scales shimmering in the alien sunlight. At the forefront stood High Chancellor Zix, flanked by stern-faced guards. Morris stepped off the shuttle, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "High Chancellor, we come seeking friendship and mutual protection." Zix's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Pretty words, human, but how do we know you're not just the next conqueror in line?" "Because we've bled alongside you," Morris replied, his voice carrying across the landing pad. "We've faced the same enemies, suffered the same losses, but together we can ensure it never happens again." Over the next hours, Morris laid out his vision for a galactic alliance. He spoke of shared defense systems, cultural exchanges, and collaborative scientific endeavors. Slowly, he saw the mistrust in Zix's eyes give way to cautious interest. As negotiations concluded, Zix clasped Morris's hand with his three-fingered grip. "You've given us much to consider, Commander Morris. We will discuss your proposal and provide our answers soon." Back aboard the Defiant, Morris allowed himself a small smile. It wasn't a full commitment, but it was a start. As more worlds joined their coalition, Earth's position in the galaxy would grow stronger. His brief moment of satisfaction was interrupted by an urgent comm alert. "Commander, you need to see this." Chen's voice crackled through the speaker. In the ship's intel center, Chen pulled up a series of encrypted transmissions they'd intercepted. "We've been tracking these for weeks, sir. At first, we thought it was just background noise, but there's a pattern." Morris leaned in, studying the data scrolling across the screens. His eyes widened as he began to see the connections. "My God," he breathed. "It's a shadow network, spanning half the known galaxy." Chen nodded grimly. "We're calling them the Obsidian Cabal. They seem to be manipulating events on a massive scale, but we can't pin down their ultimate goal." Morris's mind raced, processing the implications. "We need to know more. Assemble a covert ops team. We're going hunting." Weeks later, Morris found himself creeping through the corridors of a hidden space station, deep in uncharted territory. His team moved with practiced stealth, disabling security systems and evading patrols. They reached a massive central chamber, filled with strange, pulsing machinery. Morris's blood ran cold as he realized what he was seeing. "They're weaponizing dark matter," he whispered. Suddenly, alarms blared. They'd been discovered. As his team fought their way back to their ship, Morris made a split-second decision. He grabbed the nearest high-ranking Cabal member, a snarling Zephyrian scientist. "You're coming with us," Morris growled, stunning the alien with his sidearm. Back on the Defiant, Morris stared at their captive through the force field of the brig. "Your name is Zaroth, correct?" he asked, his voice hard. "You're going to tell us everything you know about the Obsidian Cabal." Zaroth sneered. "You have no idea what forces you're meddling with, human." "Then educate me," Morris replied, leaning in close. "Because right now, you're our only lead on stopping a weapon that could destroy entire star systems." Hours of intense interrogation followed. Slowly, painfully, they extracted the truth from Xeroth. The Cabal's plans were more horrifying than Morris could have imagined. As he processed the information, an alert came through from Earth. The EDA headquarters was under attack. Morris watched in horror as security feeds showed Dr. Kendrick, his trusted advisor, working with the infiltrators, stealing vital data. "No," Morris whispered, his fists clenching. The betrayal cut deep, but there was no time for self-recrimination. They had to act fast. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered, his voice echoing through the ship. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed. We've got a war to win." The Defiant shuddered as another volley of enemy fire impacted its shields. Morris gripped the command chair, his teeth gritted as he watched the tactical display. Red icons representing Cabal ships swarmed across the screen, striking EDA outposts and allied worlds with ruthless efficiency. "Status report," Morris barked. Lieutenant Chen's fingers flew across her console. "Sir, we've lost contact with outposts in Sectors 7 and 12. The Kaldorian defense fleet is taking heavy losses." Morris banged his head on the armrest. "Damn it, they're using our own intel against us." He turned to his XO, Commander Reyes. "Assemble Alpha Team. We're going in." Within the hour, Morris stood before a group of hardened operatives in the Defiance briefing room. Among them were two Barzan defectors, their scaled skin glinting under the harsh lights. "Our target is the Cabal's main research facility," Morris explained, bringing up a holographic display of a barren, crater-pocked moon. "Intel suggests this is where they're developing their dark matter weapon. We take it out. We cut the head off the snake." The team's stealth shuttle sliced through the inky void of space, weaving between debris fields and sensor nets. As they approached the facility, Morris saw a massive structure of black metal and pulsing energy fields. 30 seconds to insertion," the pilot called out. Morris checked his gear one last time. "Remember, we're outnumbered and outgunned. Speed and surprise are our only advantages." They breached the outer defenses with precise demolition charges, alarms blaring as they sprinted through twisting corridors. Cabal guards poured from side passages, energy weapons spitting deadly bolts. Morris ducked behind a bulkhead, returning fire. "Push forward! We can't let them bog us down." They fought their way deeper into the complex, leaving a trail of stunned and unconscious guards in their wake. Finally, they reached the central laboratories. The scene that greeted them was nightmarish. Tanks lined the walls, filled with writhing, mutated creatures. Dark matter reactors hummed ominously, barely contained by flickering containment fields. "By the stars," one of the Barzan operatives whispered, his scales paling. Morris forced himself to focus on the mission. "Plant the charges. We're blowing this hellhole sky high." As his team worked, Morris accessed a nearby terminal. His blood ran cold as he scrolled through the data. "They're already building prototypes. We don't have much time." Suddenly a familiar voice rang out. "I'm afraid you have no time at all, Commander Morris." Morris spun to see Xeroth, the Zephyrian scientist they'd previously captured, flanked by a squad of heavily armed Cabal troops. "You're too late," Xeroth sneered. "The Obsidian Cabal will—" His words were cut off as a massive explosion rocked the facility. Through a shattered viewport, Morris saw Barzan warships engaging the Cabal fleet. "It looks like we brought some friends to the party," Morris grinned, diving for cover as the firefight erupted. Energy bolts crisscrossed the lab, shattering equipment and freeing half-formed abominations from their tanks. Morris and his team were pinned down, desperately outgunned. Just as hope began to fade, a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "Need a hand, old friend?" A squad of Barzan rebels burst through a side entrance, led by a scarred warrior Morris had long thought dead. "Krasnok?" Morris gasped. "How?" "Save it for later," the Barzan growled, laying down suppressing fire. "Let's get out of here." With their newfound allies, they fought their way back to the shuttle. As they lifted off, Morris hit the detonator. The charges ignited the dark matter reactors, and the entire facility imploded in a spectacular light show. Back aboard the Defiant, Morris debriefed Krasnok. The Barzan's tale confirmed his worst fears. The Cabal has made a deal with the Praetorians, Krasnok explained. Advanced tech in exchange for a cut of the conquered territory once the weapon is complete. Morris's mind raced. We need to hit them hard now before they can finish the weapon. He opened a channel to the Allied fleet. All ships, this is Commander Morris. Commence Operation Spearhead. Hit every Cabal stronghold we know of. As reports of battles across the galaxy flooded in, Chen approached with a grim expression. Sir, we've intercepted a transmission. The Obsidian Empress. She sent agents to Earth. They're after your family. Morris felt the blood drain from his face. He turned to Reyes. You have command of the fleet. I'm taking a team to Earth. Sir, Reyes protested, the offensive... We'll have to manage without me, Morris cut him off, already striding towards the hangar. Some things are more important than duty. As his shuttle rocketed towards Earth, Morris checked his weapon, his face set in grim lines. The Obsidian Cabal had just made this war personal. The shuttle's engines roared as it plunged through Earth's atmosphere, heat rippling across its hull. Inside, Morris squeezed the armrests, his teeth clenched. The fate of his family hung in the balance. As they touched down at a secure EDA facility, Morris wasted no time. He gathered his team around a holographic display of the city. Alpha Team, you're with me. We intercept the Empress's agents here, he pointed to a bustling commercial district. Beta Team, fortify the compound. Use everything at your disposal. The Beta Team leader nodded. We'll keep your family safe, sir. Morris and Alpha Team piled into unmarked vehicles, racing through the streets. The city blurred past, a maze of towering skyscrapers and neon signs. Morris's eyes darted from rooftop to alley, searching for threats. Contact, his second-in-command Sergeant Rivera hissed. 3 o'clock, black hover car, diplomatic plates. Morris spotted it. That's them. Box them in. Their vehicles swerved, cutting off escape routes. The hover car's occupants reacted instantly, energy weapons blazing through the windows. Take cover, Morris shouted, diving behind a parked vehicle as plasma bolts seared the air. Civilians screamed, fleeing the firefight. Morris's team returned fire, their weapons set to stun. They couldn't risk killing their only leads. A Cabal agent, reptilian features twisted in a snarl, leapt from the hover car. He charged Morris's position, firing wildly. Morris rolled, narrowly avoiding the barrage. He came up firing, catching the agent in the chest with a stun blast. The alien collapsed, twitching. One down, Morris called out. The battle raged on. Energy bolts crisscrossed the street, shattering windows and scorching pavement. Morris's team pressed forward, their superior training evident. A scream pierced the air. Morris turned to see Rivera clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. Man down, Morris shouted, rushing to drag Rivera to safety. As he reached his comrade, a plasma bolt struck inches from his head. Morris looked up to see a Cabal sniper on a nearby rooftop. Cover me, he ordered, hefting Rivera over his shoulder. His team laid down, suppressing fire as Morris sprinted for cover, Rivera's dead weight slowing him down. They made it behind a concrete barrier, Morris's lungs burning. Status report, he barked into his comm. 2 hostiles neutralized, sir, came the reply. 1 more in the vehicle plus the sniper. Morris nodded. Take out that sniper. I'll handle the last one. He left Rivera in the care of their medic and crept towards the hover car. The last agent was cornered, but dangerous. Morris took a deep breath, then sprang into action. He vaulted over the hover car's hood, crashing through the windshield feet first. The Cabal agent, caught off guard, fumbled for his weapon. Morris was faster. His stun baton crackled as it connected with the alien's chest. The agent convulsed, then went limp. Clear! Morris called out. He dragged the unconscious alien from the vehicle, securing him with restraints. As the dust settled, Morris surveyed the scene. Scorch marks and debris littered the street. Civilians peered out from hiding spots, shock evident on their faces. Casualties? Morris asked, dreading the answer. 3 wounded, sir, his second-in-command reported. Rivera's the worst, but he'll make it. No fatalities on our side. Morris nodded, relief washing over him. And the hostiles? 2 dead, 2 captured, including this one. The soldier gestured to the alien Morris had subdued. Based on his insignia, he's high-ranking. Name's Xyloth. Morris's eyes narrowed. Get him to interrogation. He might be our key to cracking this whole thing open. As cleanup crews arrived to secure the scene, Morris received a transmission from Beta Team. Compound secure, sir. Your family is safe. Morris allowed himself a small sigh of relief. They'd won this battle, but he knew the war was just the beginning. Hours later, Morris stood in a dimly lit interrogation room, staring down at Xyloth. The alien's scales glistened with sweat under the harsh lights. Let's start simple, Morris said, his voice cold. Why does the Empress want my family? Xyloth remained silent, his multifaceted eyes unblinking. Morris leaned in close. We can do this the easy way, or we can get creative. Your choice. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the energy barrier separating them. Then, Xyloth spoke, his voice a raspy whisper. You have no idea what forces you're dealing with, human. Morris didn't flinch. Then educate me. What followed was hours of intense questioning. Slowly, painfully, they extracted the truth from Xyloth. With each revelation, Morris felt the weight on his shoulders grow heavier. The Cabal's reach extended further than they'd ever imagined, and now, with the Praetorians involved, the stakes had risen to a terrifying new level. As Xyloth's words sank in, Morris knew he had to act fast. He strode out of the interrogation room, barking orders into his comm. This is Commander Morris. I'm calling an emergency summit of all Alliance leaders. We have a situation. Within hours, holographic projections of alien leaders filled the EDA's secure conference room. The air crackled with tension as Morris laid out what they'd learned. Admiral Krasnok, the scarred Barzan warrior, spoke first. If the Praetorians are truly involved, we must strike now before they can bring their full might to bear. Agreed, rumbled Zix, the Kaldorian High Chancellor. We cannot allow this weapon to be completed. Others were more cautious. A full-scale assault could provoke the Praetorians into open war, warned the Zephyrian representative. We must proceed carefully. The debate raged on, voices rising as factions formed. Morris listened, his mind racing. They needed a plan, and fast. Suddenly his personal comm buzzed, a coded message originating deep within Cabal territory. Morris's eyes widened as he read it. Listen up, he shouted, silencing the bickering leaders. I've just received intel from a Cabal insider. The Empress isn't just planning to build this weapon. She's already started. He brought up a holographic display of a dense nebula. The facility is here, on a remote planetoid. If this information is correct, we don't have much time. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Morris took a deep breath, then laid out his plan. We need a two-pronged approach, a covert team to infiltrate and sabotage the weapon, while our main forces launch coordinated strikes on Cabal strongholds as a distraction. He looked around the room, meeting each leader's gaze. I know it's risky, but it may be our only shot at stopping this before it's too late. One by one, the Alliance leaders nodded their agreement. As the meeting adjourned, Morris felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had a plan, but the hardest part was yet to come. Over the next days, Morris handpicked his strike team. Former Cabal defectors, tech experts, and the best special ops soldiers the Alliance had to offer. As they prepared, Morris received another coded message from his Cabal informant, Krista. He read it with growing concern. The Empress had become paranoid, implementing extreme security measures around the weapon facility. Their already slim chances of success had just gotten slimmer. Morris called his team together. Change of plans, he announced. We're going to hijack a Cabal supply convoy. Use their own transponder codes to slip past the defenses. Sergei, a burly Russian demolitions expert, let out a low whistle. That's crazy, boss. Morris nodded. Crazy, but it's our best shot. Any objections? The room remained silent. They all knew what was at stake. All right then, Morris said, pulling up schematics of Cabal ships. Let's get to work. We leave in... Morris and his strike team surged through the nebula, their hijacked Cabal supply ship buffeted by violent electromagnetic storms. Purple-tinged lightning crackled across the view screen, threatening to short out their systems. Shields holding at 60%, Sergei called out, his fingers dancing across the control panel. Morris gripped the pilot's chair. Keep us steady. We're almost through. As they emerged from the nebula's edge, a massive asteroid field loomed before them. Hidden within its depths lay their target, the Empress's dark matter weapon facility. Using the stolen transponder codes, they slipped past the outer defensive grid undetected. Morris allowed himself a brief moment of relief before focusing on the next phase of their mission. The team docked at a nondescript landing bay, blending in with the other supply ships. As they disembarked, klaxons suddenly blared to life. "We've been made!" shouted Rivera, raising his pulse rifle. A horde of Cabal troopers poured into the hangar, backed by towering Praetorian mercenaries. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, forcing Morris and his team to dive for cover behind cargo containers. "Split up," Morris ordered over the din of battle. "Alpha team with me. We're punching through to the reactor. Beta, cover our 6. Sergei lobbed a cluster of stun grenades, briefly disorienting their attackers. Morris seized the opportunity, leading his assault team in a mad dash across the hangar floor. They fought their way through winding corridors, each turn bringing fresh waves of resistance. Morris's team moved with practiced efficiency, but the cost was high. One by one, his operatives fell to enemy fire. After what felt like hours of grueling combat, they finally reached the central reactor chamber. Morris's breath caught in his throat as he beheld the Empress's creation. A colossal sphere of writhing dark energy pulsed at the room's center, contained by a network of crackling energy fields. The air itself seemed to warp around the unstable mass. "Plant the charges," Morris ordered. "We need to overload this abomination." As his remaining team members worked to sabotage the reactor, the chamber's massive doors slid open. A contingent of Praetorian warriors strode in, their armor gleaming under the chamber's harsh lights. At their head stood a figure that dwarfed even the massive Praetorians. Clad in ornate battle armor etched with pulsing energy circuits, the Empress herself had come to defend her prize. "I commend your bravery, human," her voice boomed through the chamber, "but your foolish crusade ends here." The Praetorians charged, their energy blades humming to life. Morris and his team fought with desperate fury, but they were quickly overwhelmed by the Praetorians' superior strength and technology. As Morris watched his last operative fall, he made a final, audacious attempt. "Empress," he shouted, standing tall amidst the chaos, "I invoke the right of Calthun. Face me in single combat." The chamber fell silent. The Empress tilted her head, studying Morris with newfound interest. "You know our ways," she said, a note of respect in her voice. "Very well, human. Let us settle this as warriors." The Praetorians formed a ring around them as Morris and the Empress squared off. She towered over him, her armor dripping with deadly weaponry. Morris struck first, unleashing a flurry of blows that the Empress easily deflected. She countered with a sweeping kick that sent him sprawling. Rolling to his feet, Morris barely avoided a downward strike that left a crater in the floor. He fought with every ounce of skill and experience at his disposal, but the Empress matched him move for move. As they traded blows, Morris felt his strength ebbing. The Empress sensed his fatigue and pressed her advantage, driving him back with a relentless assault. Suddenly, a series of explosions rocked the chamber. Morris's team had succeeded in sabotaging the reactor. Alarms blared as the dark matter core began to destabilize. The Empress roared in fury, unleashing a torrent of dark energy at Morris. He raised his portable shield generator just in time, deflecting the deadly blast. The redirected energy struck the Praetorian guards, sending them crashing to the ground in a tangle of sparking armor. Seizing his chance, Morris launched himself at the momentarily stunned Empress. He unleashed a devastating combination of strikes, targeting weak points in her armor. With a final thunderous blow, Morris sent the Empress crashing to her knees. She looked up at him, her eyes blazing with a mixture of rage and grudging respect. "Finish it," she growled. Morris raised his weapon, then hesitated. The facility shuddered around them as the reactor's instability grew. "We need to evacuate," he said to his remaining team members. "Now!" As they raced for the exit, Morris cast one last glance at the fallen Empress. He knew leaving her behind might come back to haunt him, but there was no time for second-guessing. They sprinted through collapsing corridors, the air thick with smoke and the screech of twisting metal. Morris led the way, guiding them back towards their commandeered ship. "Come on," he shouted, urging his team forward. "We're almost there." As they reached the hangar bay, Morris vowed that this wouldn't be the end. Someday, somehow, he would bring the Empress to justice for her crimes. But for now, survival was all that mattered. The Alliance fleet limped through space, a patchwork of battered ships trailing debris. On the bridge of the EDA flagship, Morris stood before a holodisplay, his face haggard and uniform singed. Alien leaders' faces flickered around him, their expressions a mix of relief and wariness. "The dark matter weapon is destroyed," Morris reported, his voice hoarse. "And the Empress, we believe she perished in the blast." Admiral Krasnok leaned forward, his scarred face filling the display. "Believed? You didn't confirm the kill?" Morris shook his head. "There wasn't time. The facility was coming down around us." Murmurs rippled through the gathering. Chancellor Zix's tentacles writhed as he spoke. "A significant blow, but we must not grow complacent. The Cabal is wounded, not dead." As if on cue, a junior officer approached. "Sir, we've intercepted Cabal communications. They're regrouping in the Zorath Nebula." The holodisplay shifted, showing a swirling mass of gases and energy storms. Morris studied it, his mind racing. It's a natural fortress. Gravitational shears, radiation pockets. No wonder they chose it. "A suicidal target," Krasnok rumbled. "We'd lose half our fleet just reaching their position." Morris's eyes narrowed. "Unless we use it against them." He manipulated the display, highlighting energy patterns. "See these plasma currents? With the right shielding modifications, we could ride them straight to the Cabal's doorstep." For hours they debated strategy. As the plan took shape, Morris felt a grim satisfaction. They had a chance to end this, once and for all. Days later, the Alliance Armada hung at the edge of the Zorath Nebula. Lightning arced between ships as they engaged their modified shields. Morris stood on the bridge of his assault craft, watching the swirling chaos ahead. "All ships form up," he ordered. "Follow our vector precisely. One wrong move in there." They plunged into the nebula. Alarms blared as sensors went haywire. Outside the viewports, reality itself seemed to twist and warp. Morris gripped his chair as the ship bucked and shuddered. Suddenly, energy beams lanced out of the chaos. Cabal ships swarmed around them, weapons blazing. The space battle erupted in full fury, ships weaving through gravitational eddies and radiation fronts. "We're taking heavy fire," Sergei shouted from his station. "Shields at 60%. Morris gritted his teeth. "Push through. All ships. Concentrate fire on their lead cruiser." The battle raged for what felt like hours. Ships on both sides fell to enemy fire, or were torn apart by the nebula's fury. Finally, a gap opened in the Cabal's defenses. "That's our window," Morris growled. "Strike team with me, we're going in." Their assault shuttle screamed through the maelstrom, dodging debris and energy beams. They slammed into a docking bay, the impact rattling Morris's teeth. "Go, go, go," he shouted as the hatch blew open. They fought their way through twisting corridors, past automated defenses and waves of Cabal troops. Morris lost count of how many he killed, his body moving on autopilot. Deep in the base's heart, they stumbled upon a nightmare. Rows of tanks lined the walls, filled with writhing, half-formed creatures. Surgical tables stood nearby, covered in blood and viscera. "Dear God," Rivera whispered. "What have they been doing here?" Before Morris could respond, a roar shook the chamber. A massive figure emerged from the shadows, its body a grotesque fusion of human and alien flesh. Cybernetic implants pulsed beneath its skin. "Morris," it growled, its voice a distorted version of one he knew all too well. "How fitting you should be here to witness my rebirth." Morris raised his weapon, his hands shaking. "Kendrick, what have you done to yourself?" The thing that had once been Dr. Kendrick lunged forward with inhuman speed. Morris and his team opened fire, but their shots seemed to have little effect. The abomination, abyssal, tore through them like paper. Morris watched in horror as his people fell. He fired until his weapon clicked empty, then resorted to hand-to-hand. It was like fighting a mountain of muscle and metal. Just as Abyssal's massive hand closed around Morris's throat, a familiar voice rang out. "Hey, Ugly, remember me?" Krista stood in the doorway, her lab coat stained with blood. She held up a data pad, her finger hovering over its surface. "I've uploaded a virus to the base's systems. One push, and this whole place goes up in flames." Abyssal hesitated, his grip loosening. Morris seized the opportunity, driving his combat knife into a gap in the creature's armor. It howled in pain, stumbling back. "Krista!" Morris shouted. "We need to get out of here!" She shook her head, a sad smile on her face. "You go. Someone needs to stay behind to trigger the override manually." She gestured to a door behind her. "The reactor chamber's through there. I'll hold him off." Morris opened his mouth to argue, but Krista was already moving. She dodged past Abyssal, sprinting for the reactor chamber. The monstrosity roared and gave chase. "We have to go, sir," Rivera urged, pulling at Morris's arm. With a heavy heart, Morris turned and ran. They fought their way back through the crumbling base, alarms blaring all around them. Just as they reached their shuttle, the entire structure shuddered violently. As they blasted free of the doomed facility, Morris watched through the view screen. The Cabal base collapsed in on itself, consumed by a firestorm of its own making. Back aboard the flagship, Morris stood before the Alliance leaders once more. The remnants of the Cabal fleet were in full retreat, harried by Alliance ships. "We've won a great victory today," Admiral Krasnok intoned. "Thanks to your leadership, Morris, and the sacrifice of many brave souls." Morris nodded, his throat tight. He thought of Krista, of all those who had given their lives to stop the Cabal. The price of victory had been steep. A communication officer interrupted, his face pale. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Empress." Morris's blood ran cold as a familiar voice filled the bridge. "Did you really think it would be that easy to kill me, Commander? This isn't over, not by a long shot." The officers around him erupted in shocked exclamations, but Morris tuned them out. He stared into space, his mind racing. The Empress was alive, which meant their war was far from... The bridge of the EDA flagship fell silent as the Empress's transmission cut off. Morris stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. He turned to face the assembled alien leaders, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. "We need to move, now," Morris barked, snapping everyone back to attention. "Admiral Krasnok, ready a boarding party. We're going after that signal." Within minutes, Morris led a team of elite soldiers through the swirling chaos of the Zorath Nebula. Their shuttle bucked and shuddered as it navigated the treacherous energy storms. Through the viewport, Morris glimpsed the twisted wreckage of a massive ship. "That's it," he said, pointing to a faint energy signature. "Take us in." The shuttle latched onto an airlock with a metallic clang. As the doors hissed open, Morris and his team swept in, weapons raised. The interior of the ship was a nightmare of twisted metal and flickering emergency lights. They moved through the corridors, stepping over the bodies of fallen Praetorian guards. The air reeked of ozone and decay. Finally, they reached the bridge. There, slumped in a command chair, was the Empress. Her once imposing form was now a shell, ravaged by radiation. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her skin mottled and peeling. Morris approached cautiously, his weapon trained on her. "Empress," he said, his voice hard. "You're looking a little worse for wear." She raised her head, her eyes focusing on him with effort. "Morris," she wheezed, I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening," Morris replied, not lowering his weapon. The Empress coughed, a wet, painful sound. "The coordinates to our hidden armory, weapons beyond your wildest nightmares. They're yours, if you get me off this ship." Morris's team exchanged uneasy glances. Sergeant Rivera spoke up, her voice tight. "Sir, we can't seriously be considering—" "Quiet!" Morris cut her off, his eyes never leaving the Empress. He weighed the options, the potential risks and rewards flashing through his mind. Finally, he nodded. "Deal, but if you try anything, I'll space you myself." As they evacuated the Empress and her few surviving lieutenants, the debate raged across the Alliance fleet. Morris stood before a holo display, surrounded by the angry faces of various faction leaders. "This is madness," Admiral Krasnok roared. "We should execute them immediately." Chancellor Zix's tentacles writhed in agitation. "And stoop to their level? We must show we are better than that." The argument crescendoed until a priority alert cut through the chaos. Morris's comm officer approached, his face pale. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." The holo display flickered, replaced by a shadowy figure. Its voice was a cold, multi-toned whisper that sent chills down Morris's spine. "Commander Morris," it said, "I am the Arbiter, last of the Obsidian Council, and you are a pawn in a game far beyond your comprehension." The figure spoke of centuries of manipulation, of wars orchestrated from the shadows. It painted a picture of a cabal driven by a twisted vision of galactic purification. As the transmission ended, Morris stood in stunned silence. Then he snapped into action. "Get me those armory coordinates, now!" The Alliance fleet arrived at the hidden facility, a massive structure nestled in an asteroid field. Morris led the initial sweep team, moving through cavernous halls filled with horrors beyond imagination. Vats of writhing bioweapons lined the walls, reality-warping cannons hummed with barely contained energy, and at the center, a device that made Morris's blood run cold, a prototype capable of snuffing out entire star systems. He keyed his comm. "This is Morris. Prepare for full-scale bombardment. We're reducing this place to atoms." As the Alliance's most powerful weapons rained down on the facility, Morris watched from the bridge of his ship. The asteroid field erupted in a cataclysm of fire and twisted space-time. When the dust settled, nothing remained but a cloud of radioactive debris. Morris knew he had made enemies with this decision, but the alternative was unthinkable. In the days that followed, Morris threw himself into the interrogation of the captive Praetorians. Hour after grueling hour, he pieced together a picture of betrayal and corruption spanning millennia. As he left the final interrogation session, his mind reeled with the implications. The Empress, a figurehead. The true power, this arbiter, still out there somewhere. Morris strode onto the bridge, his face set with grim purpose. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.